welcome to Helmer's Movie Mania podcast. I'm your host, Alex Helmer, bringing you more cinema-related content. Now, if you haven't noticed, if you're just brain dead, if you haven't noticed what you're going to be saying with your eyes, or what you're going to be hearing with your ears, the black and white features, as well as my really bad Jimmy Stewart impression, today's show is going to look a little different. Today's show is going to be the introduction to our classic movie segment, where we talk everything classic movies. And with me is my new co-host. He's not going to be that inferior Alex fellow that you've been accustomed to for our previous few videos. He is... Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'll go back to Alex. I won't torture you too much with my amazing Jimmy Stewart impression, because it is really killing my jaw. And plus, again, I don't want to ruin this experience for you. But, like I was saying before, my co-host for today, he's a sophomore at McAllister College. He's my go-to for anything classic movie, foreign or domestic, as well as the Turner Classic Maniac, as I've labeled him, Jack Darnell. Jack, how are you doing today?
Hi, how's it going? I'm just really happy to be here to talk about some movies, especially old movies. And yeah, I'm excited for this video.
Today, we have a different type of show today. Today is going to be our classic movie segment. That's why you're going to see the black and white filter. And we are going to be talking about the top five films from the 1950s. Please, remember, if you haven't already, like the video, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon to get notified on all our latest cinema content. Like I said, top 50s movies, that's going to be the list today. So, I think we're both in agreement. The 50s are probably our favorite decade in film. Why do you think the 50s are so special in terms of the cinema that came out in that decade?
I think that, for me at least, it's like the perfect point of talent. There was all these old masters of cinema, just like they've been working for decades. Now they're reaching a technical height. And there are all these newcomers, these new ideas, these new artists who are coming in with new ideas, new ways of telling stories, and that kind of blend that came in the 1950s, I think it was a really transformative moment for cinema. But it was just this amount of energy and passion that you could see in the films.
So let's get started on our list then. This is probably the list I'm most excited about out of the two I've done with Holmes. This is probably the one I'm most excited about. I've seen a lot of 50s movies, especially over quarantine. What are your honorable mentions for the top 50s films?
Yeah, so just to name a couple, I really love De Sica's Libertad D. I love Nicholas Ray. He made two really great films in this decade. He made Johnny Guitar, one of the best westerns, and also I really like In a Lonely Place, a really great noir.
Mm-hmm.
I like Fellini's Nights of Cabiria. I like early Fellini a lot, so that's, I think, one of his better ones. Vajda made a film called Ashes and Diamonds about Polish resistance fighters in World War II. It's really great. Bresson made Escape, which is a really interesting, spiritually driven escape film, prison escape film. I really like Renee's Hiroshima Mon Amour, one that kickstarted the French New Wave. I love Cocteau's Orphée, which is like a romantic fantasy drama. I love Night of the Hunter, classic with Robert Mitchum and Lillian Gish.
Mm-hmm.
Just beautiful film.
Classic, yeah.
And I love On the Waterfront as well by
of course, Elia Kazan, yeah. So I'll go for my honorable mentions. So Somebody Up There Likes Me, which is Robert Wise and Paul Newman. The 400 Blows, of course.
Mm-hmm.
On the Waterfront, like you said. On the Waterfront and Streetcar Named Desire. I still don't know which one. I definitely have to rewatch both of them because they're both so good, and they're both very similar in terms of the three-act structure and in terms of how Kazan kind of stages his actors and where the third act goes in both films.
Just Brando as well. This is so good.
Yeah, and Splendor in the Grass, which I saw recently,
is that's so good.
So good, and it's so also good. Really similar. And that's also really It's probably I don't know if it's my favorite or not. It's also, I guess it's between that and my next pick, which is A Face in the Crowd.
Yes.
Who stars in that film again?
David Griffith.
Yeah, David Griffith. He's a talk show host, right?
Yeah.
On the Griffith Show, yeah. And that
so
film,
good.
I think that might be my favorite. It's between that and Splendor in the Grass. But Elia Kazan is definitely one of my favorite directors. I just really love his style. And then Paths of Glory, of course. Kirk Douglas, one of my favorite actors. Bridge on the River Kwai. Ace in the Hole, which is an underseen Billy Wilder film, also with Kirk Douglas. Sabrina, actually probably my favorite Humphrey Bogart film. I definitely have to rewatch Casablanca, but Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, and William Holden. And then North by Northwest, of course. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, another Kirk Douglas film. I'm really in love with Kirk Douglas. He's my favorite actors. And of course, Johnny Guitar, like you mentioned. I can get started with my number 5 and my number 4. Or sorry, my number 5, my number 4, my number 3, my number 2. I'll do that before my 1. Okay, so my number 5 is going to be Rear Window, of course. Now, I know you're not too big of a fan of Rear Window. Would that be understating it a bit? Or
I think it's overrated, but it's still an amazing film. I'm not gonna deny it. And Jimmy Stewart.
I mean, I rewatched it recently for the first time. I think I watched Shadow of a Doubt, and I kind of got back into Hitchcock, and I was like, you know what, let's just rewatch Rear Window. And I thought the rewatch was just insane for me. I mean, I just loved it so much more now. The structure in terms of the technical aspects are so inventive, so ahead of its time in its craft.
Very economic.
And the first person viewpoint from Stewart, and then of course Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly.
But her entrance in that film, her first scene, is so good. The way he camera works.
And it's a really funny film. Jimmy Stewart delivers his lines so well. This is probably in my opinion, his funniest role. He's just hilarious in the film. And I just love the camera movement. I love the long takes, the color. I thought the Technicolor was beautiful. I love the Technicolor. So that is my number 5. Okay, so my number 4 is going to be The Bad and the Beautiful. Now, I know you saw this one recently. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Kirk Douglas is one of the best actors of all time. He is just so good. I've seen 6 of his films, and 5 of them I've rated 9 out of 10. In the 6th one, which I didn't rate 9 out of 10, Out of the Past, I still think is a really good film.
Yeah.
He is so good. I mean, seriously, he can do anything. In his Spartacus, which is in the 60s, so I won't talk about it, but that's amazing. And then I named some of his other ones: Ace in the Hole, Johnny Guitar, or sorry, not Johnny Guitar, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Paths of Glory, which I mentioned already. But he's one of the all-time greats. He's one of the acting juggernauts of all time. And his character in this film, Jonathan Shields, he's a really complex figure. He's definitely the film is basically about the framing device used is really cool. It's framed with so basically 3 figures that have their lives have been transformed by this character, Jonathan Shields, played by Kirk Douglas. They're basically telling 3 distinct stories about their experiences with him, and they both further develop the story, they further develop Kirk Douglas, and they also develop their character, the 3 characters at the beginning of the film. But I definitely encourage anyone to see it. It's directed by Vicente Minnelli, who also directed American in Paris. And it's just I just love movies about movies, and Jonathan Shields is definitely a character. His love of movies is what kind of drives people away from him and creates this reputation. He creates this reputation for himself because of it, and I really love the film.
Yeah, it has a very touch, which I appreciate. It has a very honest touch. It's not super romantic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the pacing is great in it. I love the pacing. Yeah.
It's 3 separate movies.
The cinematography is beautiful as well. I mean, every movie in the 50s, the 50s is visually the best decade in film, and I don't think it's even that close. Early 60s is also really good. Oh yeah, so my number 3 is going to be The Night of the Hunter, which you already mentioned. I feel like Night of the Hunters, it definitely got this cult. It has this cult-like status after it came out, because obviously not a lot of people saw it when it came out. Charles Lofton's career was basically over after Night of the Hunter was released, which kind of sucks because the direction of this film is magnificent. His use of close-ups, particularly, I told Holmes this before, but I'm a close-up purist, really. I really hate, especially in new cinema, when close-ups are used just all the time in just any situation. It's just really annoying, because I think close-ups are really can be some of the most powerful things in all film. And so I thought they were used magnificently in this film, especially with the love-hate scene with Robert Mitchum's hands. This is Robert Mitchum's I think it's his best role, honestly. He's so good in this film. Yeah. Lillian Gish, like you said, she's amazing in it.
Performance.
Yeah, the cinematography is so good. It's so good.
Like the boat scene.
Yeah, there's so many paintings. There's so many scenes in the film that are like paintings, basically. It's just unfair to any painter who spends a year, drawing something. And in this film, there are a multitude of them done in 2 hours.
Right. So my number 5 has already been mentioned. Is Paths of Glory. This is probably my favorite Kubrick film. it's one of my favorite war films of all time. It's so simple, but it's also so powerful, and you don't necessarily feel that power until the end. I feel like with the whole not to spoil anything, but the whole ceremony of what happens eventually, and just like that last, especially with this German girl scene and like the crowd of people watching, listening. I thought was really powerful. Kirk Douglas, of course, he
Mm,
really had a run in the 50s, I think, and
yeah, he.
this is an amazing performance. And yeah, I really, like Kubrick's direction is always perfect, I think. So then moving on to my number four, I think one of the big voices of the 50s was Bergman. So I have one
Mhm.
Bergman film on my list. That's The Seventh Seal.
Oh,
I
okay,
really
yeah,
think
that was yeah.
Seventh Seal is one of my favorite films. I think it has like this atmosphere. It has like the classic Bergman atmosphere. It's kind of eerie, but also beautiful and very like
Hmm.
and it just there's that tone of like death that's in the air almost. And I think it's really beautifully shot. Like, this is a really
Hmm.
beautifully shot film. The
Especially
way,
the last shot. Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's one of the most
it's
iconic
a
shots. And
classic.
just
Yeah.
the story, I think, is really well done. The themes are really well. Or like Bergman's really good at having like, uh, he's a really good screenwriter in my opinion. Really, and he has some great lines in this film that
Hmm.
really resonating. And just so many images are just so
Specifically
harrowing.
between Max von Sydow's character in Death,
Yeah,
those were definitely the most compelling, especially when the chess scene. Those were definitely the
yeah,
most compelling for me. And then, is it your favorite Bergman film?
I think so. I don't
Okay.
think it's his best, but I think it's probably my favorite.
Okay. Awesome.
My number three is it's a film. It's an Indian film called Apur Sansar, and this is the third part of the Apu trilogy,
Oh, I
which is
haven't gotten to that yet.
it's by a director named Satyajit Ray, and yeah, like I actually kind of struggled with the first two because it's really he's a really unique style. But this third one really hit home for me. It really is, I think, one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. I think it continues as like this character story throughout the three films, and this is like the final closing chapter. And I can't really say anything without spoiling the other two films, but it's really well done film. And then my number two is an Akira Kurosawa film. I think it's his best film. Is Rashomon, and I love
Ah,
Rashomon.
that's the one film. So this is the first time we've disagreed so far. This segment so far.
I love when Rashomon. I love when Kurosawa likes to like explore things and talk about them, not as like open-ended questions. I feel like you can kind of divide his career into films that are just for fun, just fun. And you can like they're really well made and they're really well like the action's really great and well shot. But then there's also the other films where he asks questions, where he goes further, where he examines human beings. And I like those films a lot more. I
Hmm.
think this is an example of that. So everyone knows Seven Samurai. It kind of it trades like the epicness of Seven Samurai for the intimacy of like three or four characters. And asks a lot of questions about like truth, about what is human nature, and I think it's really well structured. I love how like keeps going back. It's kind of similar to Bad and Beautiful. It has like these three witnesses, and they keep going back and back on the story of what happened, or versus Douglas's character's origin. I think it's Kurosawa's best, and one of the best films ever made.
Hmm.
Even though we might disagree.
I won't get into that right now. So, my number two is Sunset Boulevard. Now,
Oh,
that is, I
nice.
guess, the next time we're gonna disagree.
No,
Um,
okay. I'll say like I think I saw Sunset Boulevard way too
mhm.
young to understand what was going on.
Okay.
I need to watch it. I'll hold off my judgment, but yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it is. It's an amazing film. I was definitely really. I think Sunset Boulevard was probably Night of the Hunter kind of kicked it off for me, but Sunset Boulevard I feel like cemented my feeling that the 50s were definitely a special decade for
Yeah.
film. I mean, visually, of course, it's stunning. The music by is it Bernard Herrmann? I think he does the score. I'm gonna say Bernard Herrmann, but don't hold me to that. But and then of course the screenplay in this film. Oh my
Mhm.
God, it's one of the greats. It is one of the it's one of just the absolute greats. I mean, it's just I won't I won't spoil it for anybody because some of the dialogue when you see it or when you hear it for the first time, it's something special, especially at the ending. And Gloria Swanson gives it a legendary performance. And then William Holden, of course, was really good. So everything about Sunset Boulevard I really love. And I know it's kind of off topic, but the poster for Sunset Boulevard, I have it up in my room right now.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's such a good poster. And then I guess I'll do my number one. So my number one film of the 1950s, I mean, it's pretty obvious, of course. It's of course 12 Angry Men. I mean, so Sidney Lumet is one of my favorite directors, and this was his first film. I mean, I think it's I think I have to watch this again again, but I just think there's no way that Orson Welles' debut beats Sidney Lumet's debut. I mean, this film is just it's just I know it's a very specific category, but I'm a sucker for films about like a group of people who are strangers and they're kind of like strangers and they have to solve they have a common goal that they have to achieve. Films like that. So that's why, for example, I love murder mysteries so much. And so 12 Angry Men is kind of the peak of that. I mean, there's so much just normality in this film that I just love so much. Each character represents, I feel like, a different part of society, I feel like. And the acting all around, it's one of the best ensemble casts ever put together on screen. I mean, not Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb, but everybody on screen. I've seen the film 3 times, and whenever one of the characters speaks, I try to kind of focus in on who that character is, because all 12 jurors I feel like have this own special quality to them, and I love to get to know them as individual characters, despite some of the characters their lack of screen time.
It's really good. Like you basically know there's 12
Yeah,
different people. You know each of them in less
yeah.
than like 2 hours, which is incredible.
And the subtlety, the visual
Yeah.
storytelling, like for example, like everyone that when they come into the room, they're wearing their jackets. They're all like, okay, they're really confident. And then as the film goes on, you see them sweating. You see them taking their their jackets off, roll their sleeves up, just stuff like that. Visual storytelling is something that's very underappreciated, especially in film today. And in the 50s was kind of definitely the peak of that. And 12 Angry Men is a great example of it.
I think also, if I can just add one more thing, I think that might be the most perfectly paced film ever. Is
Yeah.
every single second matters and every single second blends into one another. It's like it just has like a perfect flow.
So
I go
what
then?
is your number one film of the 50s? I
Okay.
mean, this might be, I don't know if it actually, I know what your favorite film of all time is, so it's not going to be this. I guess we would get to that in our 20s list, hint, hint. But
Yes.
what is your number one film?
So this is where we're again just going to disagree. Number one film of the 1950s is Sancho the Bailiff. And
my God. Wow. I did not expect
I love
that.
This film.
Wow. That's a shocker.
I've actually I feel like films, your opinions change a lot. And so this film has really skyrocketed to the top of my favorite films of all time. I really love this film. Yeah, like the more and more I think about it, the more and more I love it. It really is, I think, one of the great humanist pictures. It's so beautiful and it's tragedy. And I feel like I personally think it does a really good job with the emotions, the storytelling, and there's so many like great moments in this film. It's beautifully shot, it's like a really like lyrical quality, which I really like about it. The long takes of Mizoguchi, I think, are really amazing. He's my favorite Japanese director. I just like his style a bit more than Kurosawa and Ozu.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this film. It's probably one of the saddest films I've ever seen, but it's also just one of the most beautiful. I really get like this. I've only seen it once. I should definitely rewatch it, but I get like this experience of just thinking about it, of just like an appreciation almost of what I have, and just like how tragic human like life and man you can be, but also how beautiful personally is also.
All right, great picks all around. So, guys, let us know in the comments down below. What are your favorite films of the 50s? Sound off in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Ciao.